The early 60s had seen the rise of many great rally cars. The likes of the Mini and the Saab 96 showed that any motor company, big or small, had a chance of clutching greatness in the world of rally. This ended up turning more and more heads in the automobile industry. One of these heads was a little known Italian brand called Lancia. Lancia had previous endeavours into rally. They raced both the Flaminia and the Flavia in the 1950s and the early 60s with minor success. However, upon launching their brand new model, the Fulvia, in 1963, they realised that the smaller, lighter sedan might stand a better chance at beating their rivals in the sport. The team set to work forming ideas for what could be changed and added in this new version of the Fulvia, and what resulted was the Fulvia HF. The 1.6 litre V4 produced 132 brake horsepower, which made it very powerful for the time. When Lancia finally debuted their new Fulvia at the 1965 Tour de Corse, it placed 8th, which is pretty good for a first outing. But there were other companies that were now in the running too. In 1966, Renault had funded the small French manufacturer Alpine to create a rally-suited version of their A110 model. It was fitted with a 1.1 litre inline-4 Gordini engine capable of 95 horsepower, which was easily enough to secure them many victories at rallies in France throughout the 1960s. Lancia and Alpine, however, even with their revolutionary new racers, still had some catching up to do. Mini was still the commanding officer. The car was actually set to win the 1966 Monte Carlo rally, i.e. its third consecutive title there. Mini had a 1-2-3 podium domination by the time the rally came to a close, but controversially all three were disqualified, as well as the 4th place's Cortina for using non-dipping single filament quartz iodine bulbs in their headlights, as opposed to the standardised double filament dipping glass bulbs, whatever all of that means. Because of this, Mini lost their 1-2-3 podium finishes and their title, and what was originally 5th place, Pauli Toivonen, driving a Citroen ID, claimed the title in the end. Even though the event was particularly catastrophic for Mini, other manufacturers felt the blow too, as 10 cars overall were disqualified. Teams threatened to boycott the race, and it remains one of the most infamous events in rallying history. Even so, the event did not deter Mini, as they hit back the very next year with another victory at the 1967 Monte Carlo rally. But it wasn't a 3-place flush. Lancia took 2nd with their Fulvia and began to show that the Italians might have a knack for rallying. I should make it abundantly clear that rally was still a primitive sport at this point. It was nothing like it is today. While there are still many long-distance rallies raced around the world in modern times, in the 60s there was almost a fascination with it. Examples like the Mexico 1000 were created in 1967, a grueling, you guessed it, 1,000-mile long off-road race down the length of the Baja California Peninsula. Today it's known as the Baja 1000, and a number of other Baja races take place worldwide to this day. 1968 saw the introduction of the London to Sydney Marathon, won initially by a Hillman Hunter, with 56 cars finishing overall. The marathon has been held 5 more times in the following years. This also led to the introduction of the London to Mexico World Cup Rally in 1970, designed to link the FIFA World Cup venues of 1966 and 1970, which was won by a Ford Escort piloted by Hanna Mikkola and Gunnar Palm. Drivers were regularly pushing not only themselves but the cars to or even beyond the limit. But there was also a strong fascination with the world of the night rally, which nowadays is all but extinct. At this point, while special stages were growing in popularity where roads and tracks are closed off to the public, road rallies still had a large following. Roads would not be closed, and to cause as little nuisance and danger to the local residents and the public, the rallies would usually have to be run in rural areas and at night. However, due to rule changes over the years to stay within the speed limit etc., its popularity declined over the years and isn't heard about much today. One thing it could offer was allowing drivers of all skill levels to enter, and cars like the Ford Escort were popular entrants. This period also saw the birth of rallycross, where races take place on an enclosed circuit with a mixture of tarmac and dirt. The first true event of this kind to many was held on the Liddon Hill circuit in the UK on the 4th of February 1967. Rallycross hasn't become as internationally popular as the WRC, but it still remains popular in the UK and has really taken hold in Scandinavian countries and the likes of Belgium and the Netherlands. Most importantly, however, was the fact that this wide range of disciplines also gave birth to some amazing drivers. One such example is that of Bjorn Waldegaard. His first international victory was at the 1969 Monte Carlo rally at the wheel of his Porsche 911. He became known as one of the great rally drivers as he was well suited to race in a wide range of disciplines from sprints to marathons, and he even dabbled in races on the Targa Florio and had an illustrious career that spanned well into the 80s. Waldegaard wasn't the only Scandinavian driver to take to the sport. The likes of Hannu Mikkola, Erik Karlsson, Pauli Toivonen, Ove Andersson and Timo Mäkinen were others from this area of the world that enforced an effective stronghold on the sport throughout the 60s. The likes of Mikkola, Mäkinen and Toivonen became part of the infamous Flying Finns group, a nickname given to Finnish athletes across a range of sporting disciplines for their notable speed. But there were others from across the world. The Italian driver Sandro Manari began to make a name for himself, winning the Italian Rally Championship in both 1967 and 1969. The Scottish driver Andrew Cowan had two back-to-back wins in the Scottish Rally in 1962 and 63 and followed these up by winning the 1968 London to Sydney Marathon. Drivers had now far exceeded simply being amateurs of the sport. They were now outright professionals. However, the landscape of the sport was about to change drastically once again. As new rules were introduced and a brand spanking new championship was brought about, cars became more radical, more powerful and most importantly, faster. Join me next time as we enter the 1970s, a decade as different to the 60s as the 60s was to anything before it.